What a wonderful, wonderful audience. We're so thrilled for the world premiere of The Lost Bus. First question for you, Paul. I understand you were almost finished editing this film when you learned about the fires burning in Los Angeles this past January. How did the film first originate?
Jamie and Jason phoned me up and said they had a project with Brad and based on Lizzie's book, and I literally about 2 minutes in, they said, well, it's about the school bus and the wildfire in Paradise. And I said, yeah, I'm in. And it was that simple. That was it, pretty much. It was easy because it was such a great story and a momentous event, and then it was a blessed journey, so thanks to them.
And Jamie, what inspired you to adapt this book and story as a producer? What inspired you?
I can't believe I'm standing here with you all. It was August 20th, 2021. I was in Idaho, and I read an article in the Washington Post, which was a review of Lizzie's book. And then there was a sort of sidebar, which was the story of Kevin and Mary. And I said to my husband in the kitchen, I said, well, that's the movie. And he said, what? And I showed him the article, and I said, well, that's the movie. That's obviously how you make the movie. But then I didn't do anything. And then the next day I was going to visit my sister, Kelly. I was driving on the highway, I was listening to NPR. Thank you, NPR. And Scott Simon, Weekend Edition, said, my first guest today is Lizzie Johnson, the author of Paradise. Lizzie, you know, the book is amazing, but the story that really got me was the story of Kevin McConaughey and the school bus. And I pulled my car over, and I called my partner, Jason Blum, and I said to you, I'm going to send you 2 links. I said, I want to buy the book. I want to make the movie with you. I said, I think it'll be the most important thing either one of us ever do in the movie business. And 4 years later, we're standing here tonight. That's it.
Matthew, for you, this is a real life character, of course. Did you meet the real Kevin McConaughey? Was your character based on him, or did you make it your own?
I did meet Kevin. Kevin, where are you? Right there. There you go.
Kevin, please stand up.
Stand up, Kevin. Where's Mary? Mary Ludwig. Where's Mary? Mary, stand up. Hey. I did meet Kevin.
Obviously, yes.
And Mary. But Kevin and I spoke a few times. And going into this, look, when something's based on real events, inspired by real events, I think as an actor, probably as a director too, I suppose, you come into it with a little more responsibility, reverence, etc. But we were not telling a biography or documentary on it. So while the events are pretty much what happened, after I got to know Kevin and heard him tell his story many times, it would pick up where he would get caught up or something would affect him in telling his story. We would discuss some of those times, which were similar to the journey that I got to take in the film. But after that, it was, we fictionalized some things to keep the spirit of the truth, but fictionalized some things with work with Paul. A lot of the father-son themes that were going through this, and that great line that Paul wrote, seemed like he wrote it on the day. I was feeling like I was too late as a son, and now I think I'm too late as a father. That and the fact of second chances, which is a theme that runs through this whole story after you see it. So that was my process for getting into it.
And how did your real son also become involved in the project?
Yeah, that's right, and my mother too. How about that? If you didn't hear, my mom was the one. Is it Levi? Come on out of here, bud.
Come on out.
Yeah. So Levi, come on down, bud. So my mom has kind of always been a performer. I've actually, Richard Linklater put her and I in one scene in a film we did, Burning, and she's always been performing. I had no idea that this young man, my son, was interested. But when I pitched the script to the family, as I always do before work, I got to the part about Kevin having a son, and he asked me one day, well, how old is he? And I said, he's about your age. And then he goes, you think I could read for it? And I didn't say anything. That wasn't enough to make me say maybe or anything. He came back 4 more times, and I said, okay, now he's working for the idea. And I said, yeah. And I knew they hadn't cast the part. Pulled out the camera, worked with him on a scene, and sent that to Francine Maisler. And I said, I remember how to note. I said, I think he might be good enough for a callback. And she wrote back, I think it might be good enough to show to Paul. And I went, oh. And I said, well, if you do that, will you do me one favor? Will you pull the last name off? So it's just, there's no McConaughey on the end of that. And she said, yes. Next call I got, he said, he goes, hey, that's the guy, that's the son. And then he was told, well, that happens to be Matthew's son. And then Paul Fashion, he was like, even better, great.
What a great story.
Yeah, let's catch your mom too in a couple of months, which he did. So this is all due to Paul. My family's in this due to this man here to the left.
What a great story. You were fantastic. Fantastic, yes.
Where's Real Sean? He's out there singing too. Real Sean?
There it is.
And for you, America, this is such a different role from your last wonderful performance in Barbie.
How do you mean?
Very different film. How did you come on board? Was it at a script stage? Can you talk a little bit about how you came on this project?
Yeah, I was sent the script and I knew that Paul and Matthew were on board. I'm a huge Paul Greengrass fan. A huger fan now that I've had the chance to work with him. I liked Matthew McConaughey. Okay, like, he was just kidding. I loved you! How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, my favorite. Truly. But you know, I read the script, and really, Mary, who is in the audience, it was Mary's journey, the call that she answered to show up for other people's children when she had her own children out in the fire. And Mary was so generous and spent so much time talking to me and answered all of my questions. And it was really valuable to hear her talk about the many roles and responsibilities that she had to hold on that 6-hour journey in that bus. She had to play the role of teacher to keep the children safe physically, but also she was deeply concerned with keeping the kids safe emotionally and trying to mitigate the emotional trauma that they experienced. And a lot of that meant keeping her role as a real life mother inside. And so it was really deeply so helpful to begin with Mary's story. And then Paul gave us so much freedom to discover and create these characters on screen. And what we really were constantly playing with was the line between how long can you be a soldier? How long can you wear the mask of protector, fighter before your own humanity cracks through? And we get to see Mary's vulnerability and that she is also a human facing her own mortality. And so all of those beautiful reasons and more drew me to the role, and it was a complete honor to get to portrayed Mary on screen. Thank you, Mary.
I'd love to ask the other cast as well as the rest of the team, you know, such a special screening here tonight, the world premiere of the film. What was the feeling? How did you feel sitting with the audience watching the film tonight? Maybe we can start with Yul and Ashley.
Ashley and I saw it in New York in a small theater with maybe like 6 of us. And then when I saw it again tonight, I mean, it still stuns me, you know. It's an incredible ride, and it's an incredible film, and it's a powerful story. I want to shout out Chief Messina, who's in the audience. He's the guy who fought the fire.
Please stand up.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, I think one of the major differences is not only all of you are here, but they're here, right? Ruby Hartwig, where you at, Ruby? Will you say hi? Right? It's enormous, sitting, watching, and knowing that they're watching a version, not completely true, like 100% to life, because we're also making a film that we want people to watch and carry messages away from and experience viscerally, but to sit with the people whose stories we're telling, there's just a sacredness about that that's really hard to communicate, and I'm just so grateful to be here with them and with all of you. Thank you so much.
I'd love to hear from Brad and Jason.
Oh, I'm very happy to be here, very proud to be here, very honored to be on the stage with all these people who made this terrific movie. You know, I usually make horror movies, and I guess in a way this is kind of a heroic horror movie, but it's still a horror setting, and it's nice to take a little break from that. And what's really nice, I suppose, the nicest thing is I don't think I've ever, not that the larger end, but the small story, there's a small happy ending in this large tragedy, and my movies never have happy endings, so that was very nice.
Yeah, listen, I love to write stories about working class people, and just looking for complexity in those stories, and when I got the story from these guys here, it just felt like incredibly important story to tell, and I'm grateful to Kevin and Mary for giving me the chance to tell it.
I just have one last thing to say. You know, the first contact I made was with Kevin and Mary. And you know, when you're a producer calling someone to say, hi, we want to tell your story and make a movie about your life, you know, obviously there must be trepidations and some concerns. You know, we're basically from Hollywood, and this is a true story. So when I called Kevin, the first thing he said is, hey Jamie, you know, we have a weird connection. And I was like, okay. I said, what is it, Kevin McKay? He said, the last happy memory I had with my mom, the last time we went out before the fire was November 8th, he said was we went and saw the 40th anniversary, or the 2018 Halloween movie, which came out October 19th, 2020. 2018.
Premiered in Toronto.
Say again?
Premiered here.
Premiered here at Midnight Madness. But so he said that was the last good time I had with my mom. We went out to dinner, we went to the movies, and so that was very moving, and immediately I felt a kinship. And then I spoke to Mary. And you know, Mary was much more guarded than Kevin. Kevin was sort of gregarious. Mary was a little more concerned. And she said, you know, Jamie, we have a weird connection. And I said, really? What is it, Mary? She said, my father dated your mother.
For real?
I said, where? And she said, Merced, California. Now, you guys know my mother is Janet Leigh, but before she was Janet Leigh, she was Jeanette Helen Morrison from Merced, California. And Mary Ludwig's father dated Jeanette Helen Morrison in Merced, California. So when I tell you that this moment of trust between Kevin and Mary was born really from something much bigger, and the fact that we're all here together with you at the world premiere of a movie about their story, told by a master, produced by a master, is just a thrilling, weird connect the dots, and I'm very proud to be here with all of you tonight.
Absolutely, the stars were aligned. This was meant to be. And just thank you so much. You know, it's such a beautiful story about ordinary heroes. And I think, you know, right now, this time in our world, these stories, you know, really, really important, and just lifting all of us in such significant ways. So thank you so much, Paul. Thank you for all of the team for sharing the world premiere of The Lost Bus with us. Thank you so much.